Riley looked around the great hall where they were going to sleep. He had accepted and taken in many of the bedding parts that they had been offered, and had passed them out. He was bone-tired, but everyone has not settled, so he needed to make sure they did get settled before he could officially rest. Today had not been a loss, but it had been very difficult. He sat on his bedding as everyone around him wandered and pulled his hair out of the braid, running his fingers through it until it was straight and running down his bare back. There was a slight red mark on his chest where the spear had stabbed him, and it would be gone by morning, so he wasn't worried about it. He braided all of his hair into a single braid so that he didn't have to worry about it tonight. There was a bracelet on his left arm that spans halfway up to his forearm, 2 leather bands that hold a small knit net tight against his skin, and there is a bump in the net, even though in rising sunlight it was hard to tell what this is. Violet eyes scanned the room, and he was glad it was warm at least. Bastion was staring at his notebook, just staring at it. He'd given out all of the healing he had in him, as had Sophie, and he still didn't feel like it was enough. He usually bunked by Riley, and tonight was no exception. The plush was tossed onto the blankets beside him, and he felt a compulsion to once more scrape the pencil over the paper. 183. He hadn't been able to write anything else down. He should have wrote down what they'd found during the battle. He should probably be bitching about the loud-ass lesbians in the corner. He should be doing anything else, but instead he was staring at the paper. I killed her, Bastion mumbled it under his breath. She was running away, and I killed her. Riley turned to look at the younger man, his eyes looking tired. With one easy movement, he got himself right next to Bastion so that his shoulder touched him. You did what you had to do, he whispered softly as he leaned over, in hopes that the sound of nearby sex was enough to cover their conversation. It wouldn't be. Bastion stared at his notes, and the one message he'd been able to write on the paper. The price of moving too slow. She knew too much. Riley nodded. Yes, she did. This is war. It would have been dangerous for the people here if she got away. He paused. You did the right thing. Was it? Bastion put the worn journal down and stared at Riley with golden eyes in the night. Was it the right thing? She was running away. But she knew how the anti-magic worked. She knew it was a person, and that person had someone they loved. The line could have come back for us and grabbed us on the way out. They could have put a bounty on Theo, but... He swallowed. Was it right? Riley softened his features and slowly moved his hand so that it lay on top of Bastion's. You did the calculations. He glanced to the side where the others were also trying to ignore what was happening on the other side of the wall. You knew enough that you were sure that it would have been dangerous for her to have been allowed to leave. He paused. You did what you had to do. No one will see less of you for it. You saved them. Bastion didn't look so sure. My brother, when I was a kid, he used to have a thing he told me. I think he read it in a book somewhere. The mage had a bad habit of telling a story when the words were too hard to say. Now was no different. Is it better to be born good, or to overcome your evil nature through great effort? He stared off at the sun rising in the slats on the oddly made longhouse they were in. It looked like a sturdy cold-weather structure he knew from his adventure, but there was far more ventilation, and the dug-in floor seemed more for radiating thermal cooling than the heating. The isle was tropical, after all. He loved that quote. He said it a lot. Bastion looked like there was something he wanted to say, but thought better of it. The tutor who gave him that book was executed. He was never the same after that. Better. Kinder. Every day trying to be good. Riley nodded. Personally, I think that if we are going to force our way through what others would call our nature and be good, and help others despite the desire to do opposite, that effort is worth the same to those we help, but to us, fighting that nature and upbringing, that elevates us beyond those who just do good because they believe they already know what good is, and that makes it easy. Being truly gentle and kind means you know evil and pain intimately. He leaned forward. Your best is enough, Bastion. And kind. Bastion looked at him and sighed as he put an arm around Riley and leaned his cheek on the dark hair. Fossey aren't good. By nature, we aren't. We're evil, dangerous, cruel. By nature, by design, by every metric. He swallowed hard. I used to catch little mice and see how cold I could get the jar before they died. He pushed the heels of his hands into his eyes. I'd see how hot, too. I'm a fucking monster, Riley. My mother was delighted. My brother, he was horrified. I used to delight in horrifying him. Most people think we're evil, too. And I can't pretend that I have made the most just choices, Riley replied, raising his left arm to place it on Bastion's cheek and hook one finger behind his ear. You cannot change your past. He leaned back against Bastion. You just can't let it dictate what you do now. You don't need to prove to me that you are a better man. I already know, but I am a witness to show how you have been since I met you. I have seen you be heroic. However you were then, you are not now. I am not a hero. Bastion almost recoiled. Almost. I'm not trying to be a hero. He closed his eyes and clenched his jaw. I just want to be a good man. Riley paused and then slid his arm around Bastion's shoulders to pull him down a bit. You are a good man, Bastion. I'm just Bastion. He sighed. Good is a decision you wake up and make every day, not a state of being that you can become. Riley sat there quiet for a few seconds. You're making that choice every day. I see your effort, Bastion. Bastion was quiet, and then he smiled, just the quirk of a corner of his lips, and then a full crack into a grin. He leaned back slightly and then bumped their skulls together. You're a sap. Riley smiled. I officiated a wedding while feeling like hot garbage. Yes, I am. Bastion laughed and shook his head while tossing his other arm around Riley's shoulder so he could give him a tight hug. I thought it was great. They're cute. Huge. Why are they so tall? Riley shrugged. I have no idea. He slid both arms under Bastion's and pressed his cheek to Bastion's ear. Gigantic, bulky, and he snorted back a laugh. It's illegal, honestly. Bastion laughed and yawned. This many blankets, warm, soft, smelled like a safe place. If he were a cat, he would have purred. He stretched out and demanded he get a cuddle buddy with a yoink. It's weird, don't you think? Bastion commented as he commenced his usual nighttime head-scratch ritual with the tiny paladin. I didn't know they had any Shatterkai in the Empire Army. Riley let himself be yoinked. His eyes narrowed slightly. It had been a hard night and a difficult morning. Rest honestly sounded like the best thing that they needed. In the darkness, Rivri lies there knowing that the woman leading that group of mages had not been a Shatterkai.